This section is going to be about analysis and feedback with the basis of goal setting. We're going to discuss how to analyze something, how to analyze an event that has gone wrong or that didn't plan out as expected. And we're going to discuss what good goals are and give you some ideas on how to set good goals. When we analyze something, we tend to talk too much. And the ideas that we can get from talking too much can be confusing. Sometimes the whole picture can be blurred by giving too much unstructured discussion into the analysis. What is an analysis at all? It's basically a discussion about an event that happened, about a competition if we're discussing sport. Why should we use it? The first reason is that it can give us good feedback. If we compete, if we have an event, if we try to start a business, we need to analyze how it went in order for us to be able to learn from this performance. And of course, if we learn from the performance, it can also give us information on how to structure practice in the future, or how to conduct our business discussions in the future. It's important not to repeat the same mistakes, and a good analysis will enable that. There's one very important emotional aspect of an analysis. It gives closure. Sometimes when there's been an event that upset us, that caused a lot of emotion, for example, sport is something that always involves a lot of emotions, and it's sometimes hard to cool off after a competition. A good analysis will help us to close this chapter and to continue with the next one. So once the next competition starts, we won't think about the previous one that much anymore, which means that we've gained distance and put the competition or event or meeting in the past. If we have, for example, sports where tournaments take place, such as tennis or team sports, we need to analyze and close the previous chapter in order to start the next one. So if a tennis player competed in the quarterfinals yesterday, he needs to put that behind in order to successfully compete in the semifinals the next day. In swimming, for example, people swim in several events or several disciplines, and they need to be able to put the first one behind them in order to successfully focus on the next one. A good analysis is especially important when there's been intense emotions. We just try to somehow lose the effect of negative emotions. However, positive emotions can be just as dangerous, as they blur the focus, use up a lot of energy, and regardless of whether the event has been something that caused good emotions such as happiness, joy, satisfaction, or a lot of negative emotions, which would be anger, sadness, it's important to analyze every such event in order for us to move on. When do we analyze? It's a good decision to cool down after the event, not to jump into discussions, not to jump into the analysis, because we're too emotional. And if we give it a few hours, or perhaps analyze the event or the meeting or the competition in the evening of that day, or perhaps even the next day, of course this depends on the possibilities we have. It's far easier to be rational, to be logical, whereas immediately after the competition or event, the analysis can be somewhat too emotional, which means that it will be less effective. Who do we analyze the event with? If this is a competition in sport, we analyze it with a coach or with a psychologist if he or she is present. It can be with a teammate, and we can even do it completely on our own. If this is a business, we can analyze it with a business partner or somebody that knows us well. Sometimes video analysis is used for us to analyze our behavior, our performance. In sport, of course, this is widely used. In a business setting, it's somewhat less frequent to do a video analysis of a meeting, perhaps, but it could be just as useful to analyze reactions, to analyze our responses. How should the structure of the analysis be? Martens, in his book on coaching, proposes the structure of positive, negative, and positive, which would mean that first we point out what went well in the event, then we look for areas that were perhaps a bit flawed, and to finish off the analysis with a positive view of the entire event. I have seen this fail sometimes because people then ignore the negative part in the middle and say, oh, it was okay, it started okay, it ended okay. And I found it more useful to analyze in the structure of looking for the positive, then look for flawed areas, and then to finish it off with instructions for the future performance, so with the question mark. And it's sometimes much easier to do it in this manner. Of course, sometimes an analysis in this structure is ineffective, which will happen when the performance has been seriously flawed, where the competition was, as we would call it, a disaster, when the results were far from what we expected. What can we do in such an event? We can call this as a crisis situation, and procedures called debriefing or diffusing can help overcome the consequences. These procedures are used in crisis intervention teams, and they help people put the past in the past and help us deal with the negative emotions that were very, very intense. It goes in a very specific structure. First, we start out with the cognitive level, so we start thinking about the event, and we slowly and gradually proceed to the emotional level, and then somehow return to the cognitive. The structure is like this. A discussion that analyzes an event in a debriefing-based structure would be started with an introduction. So we would set the rules and say this is a confidential meeting, this is something that only we discuss. So if we're discussing this with a coach or a friend or amongst people that suffered from a bad event, for example, a team that had a very, very bad competition, they would say we will just discuss this between ourselves. And we would start off with stating facts. So everybody in the team would say what happened. So it would be objective aspects. For example, we didn't do as well as we thought. We hoped we would win, but we lost in the beginning rounds. For example, the team that beat us has never beaten us before. Everybody should take part if this is taking place in a group. If somebody doesn't want to participate, it's okay. We invite them, but we don't force anybody to participate, obviously. So once we've stated the facts, we go on with the thoughts. So what was your first thought of the event? Is there any thought that perhaps still persists? And this is an analysis of an event that has taken place a while ago. There could be some thoughts that keep persisting in one's mind. In this section, we're slowly progressing towards the emotional aspect. And the most emotional part of this situation, of this structure, is looking at the reactions. It's sometimes very hard to ask people about emotions. So how do you feel? Describe your emotions. This can be a very, very difficult question because sometimes emotions are so intense that they cannot be put into words. And it's often easier when we put it into pictures. So we ask the person, what was the worst part of thinking about this event? What images come to mind? Like, make a clip or a film in your mind of the worst part of the event. And in this section, most people will be able to say, it was the moment when I looked at the scoreboard, or perhaps the moment I saw the opponents raise their hands in victory. They don't have to even speak about this. You don't have to speak about it if you're analyzing something on your own. You just have to try and feel this. This can be quite intense, so we should take our time with this part. But once we've completed this, we go on to the symptoms and ask ourselves or the team if there are any changes in our behavior and thinking, or perhaps body functioning after this event. And then we enter the phase of the education, and we're slowly going back towards the cognitive part, and we tell them that feeling like this is normal. When something like this happens, other people experience similar feelings, similar behaviors, similar thoughts in events like this. If this is an analysis of the competition, the coach should be quite active in this phase. And the last part is the re-entry, which means, what did I learn from this? What could I do better in the future because of this? And somehow look for instructions for future performance. It's a good idea to take something from such an analysis. For example, this is something a swimmer that failed in a competition took with him. He wrote down a post-it with notes. He said, okay, I learned that I need to rest more and get a massage. I need to find the feeling of grasping the water, and then I need to breathe more before I compete, because his main event was far worse than he expected, but he still needed to compete in the following events during the same competition. So write down something at the end of an analysis like this, which is going to be a reminder for you to do something about this situation. Of course, this is how to analyze an event, but however, it's sometimes very important also to think about what is it that we want at all. And one important thing is to set good goals. We can speak of two types of goals. We can call them outcome goals or performance goals. Outcome goals are something that is in sport typically a placement. So I want to win, I want to be the first, I want to place in the finals. This is an outcome goal. Performance goals are, how do I want to do? I want to swim my personal best if this is swimming. I would like to do a perfect forehand in tennis, or perhaps I would like to do my routine just as I rehearsed it in practice if this is rhythmic gymnastics, for example. Good goals have some characteristics, and performance goals fit those characteristics far better, so it's easier and more doable to set performance goals rather than outcome goals. Good goals are usually quite specific, so we're going to know what the goal is. They're not going to be general goals like, I want to do good, I just want to be better. A specific goal is, I would like to improve my performance in the World Championships as far as the grades go, if this is rhythmic gymnastics again. The path for achieving the goal is well defined. It's not just that we set goals, we need to set the path for achieving them. If we don't set the path, the goal is something like a New Year's commitment. We all say, this year I'm going to be nicer to my friends. But if we don't set the path for that, it's not really a goal. The goals have to be just enough difficult. If the goals are too simple, we're not going to try hard for them. And the coach in sport definitely needs to be included, has to take part in the setting of the goal, and has to agree with the goal. If this is a business plan, then the business partner should be involved. Of course, goals also need constant feedback. We need to be rewarded for stepping on the path of achieving our goals. And we need to have a well-structured environment that will help us achieve those goals. So we're going to try, right? The starting point is, if we look at the competition season or a season in a sport, is always to start out with the season's goals. For example, I want to do this and this. It's not enough just to set the final goal. We always need several short-term goals. Some people insist on setting dream goals, which would mean that they say, I want to place so and so in the Olympics. It's very hard to set goals for more than one season or for more than 1 year. Sometimes even this can be a too long period. But if somebody should insist on setting their goals for several years, we should call it basically a dream goal. Once we've written down what we want, we need to write down how to do that. For example, if there was an athlete that said, I want to improve, he would say, I want to improve in the area of physical fitness, specifically increase my strength by 10% and increase agility. How do I do that? I would work seriously in the gym and do exercises regularly because I haven't done so in the past. Same could be done for psychological preparation, for nutrition, and so on. So this is the most important part of setting goals. I need to write down which specific activities am I going to get involved in order to achieve my goals. And sometimes we also need to do something else, which means that we need to ask ourselves, could something go wrong? What happens if I don't reach my goals? What are my excuses, for example? Which means that we structure the environment for those goals. So if somebody says, if I don't reach my goals, I'm going to finish with my athletic career, this goal could be perhaps too difficult. This person could be setting a lot of pressure on themselves. And it's sometimes very good to see that if I don't reach my goals, nothing horrible will happen. So we're going to try some of this out in the homework. First, you'll set your goals till the end of 2017 in the form that will be published on the platform. Then you will pick an event that upset you in the past year, and you will do a double analysis of this event. First, you will go with a positive, negative question mark structure, and then try with the debriefing-based structure. And, of course, you will solve the quiz that will be posted for you. Good luck with the homework.